the like button. So, then Congress gave him his walking papers. And, not. Am I back? Can you hear me?
Look at Iran. You can set aside the Epstein scandal, although I really don't want to. You can set aside 22nd Amendment, meet the 25th Amendment. Yeah, it's time to talk about the 25th Amendment again.
Am I back? Can y'all hear me?
Incapacitated, unable to perform his job because of his erratic, dysfunctional behavior. There's a medical term for what we're observing with Donald Trump. He's bonkers.
Crazy. Yeah, crazy.
Just look at Iran. You can set aside the Epstein scandal, although I really don't want to. You can set aside his destruction of the American economy. You can set aside his lawlessness, his rogue, unconstitutional violations. You can set all that aside for a minute. All you got to look is the Iranian war and how he's conducting it to see that the commander-in-chief needs to be relieved of his duties. I feel like I'm watching the Caine Mutiny, and I'm waiting for somebody to tap Humphrey Bogart on the shoulder and take him out of his command position. That would be the majority of the cabinet. As Donald Trump does two things, I'll just use two examples for this hot take. His continued flirtation with constitutional disaster in demanding that he get a third term or some part of a third term beyond 2028 and stay in office. The fact that he either believes that or doesn't really believe that, and I'll show you video clips indicating both, but the fact that he keeps talking about it to try to make himself not lame duck at the midterms demonstrates that, the executive function is checked out. And the fact that his supporters believe it as well is also an indication that he is disabled and should be removed from office under the 25th Amendment. Then just look at what he's doing in Iran. I mean, every other hour, it's another erratic decision with no planning and no forethought.
I think he bombed. He got mad.
I mean, we will go over it here on this hot take, but just in the last 24 hours. First, he said, I'm going to start bombing, meaning I'm going to start committing war crimes by bombing civilian electrical plants. That's a war crime. And he said it in a social media post. I'm going to start bombing in 48 hours unless there's an immediate unblockading of the Strait of Hormuz, through which 27% of the world's gas and oil flows by Iran. And then 24 hours later or less, in a typo-ridden second posting on social media. That's what I love. I love a government, a superpower, being run by social media postings. He then says, again, replete with typos, that he's had some constructive conversations, or somebody has, with the Iranians, and therefore he's not going to be doing the war crimes that he threatened. Oh, I feel much better now. 25th Amendment, anybody? Let's go over the 22nd versus the 25th Amendment here on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. I am Michael Popak. All right.
Hi, Michael.
22nd Amendment says that nobody can be elected to the presidency more than twice. Came out after FDR, got 4 terms. He died in his 4th term, and Republicans weren't happy about that. So let's be frank. So they posted they got a constitutional amendment passed for 2 terms only for a president. Okay. Elected. Now, that's the tricky little word in the 22nd Amendment. They are going to allow somebody to serve an additional 2 years if he also or she also, let's say, took over from the vice president position. Let's say a president died, they get 2 years, and then they get 2 more terms. But if, like, president gets elected, like McKinley, and dies 34 days into office, and the vice president takes over for the remainder, almost 4 years, that president's not going to be able to do 2 more elected terms because there's a cap of a total of 10 years in the 22nd Amendment. So I've heard all of these speculations by Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's consultant and coup plotter during January 2020, that maybe it'll be like a stalking horse, like a Trojan horse. J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio will run. They'll go through the effort of becoming president. Donald Trump will be their vice president. And then they'll suddenly, like on day 1, turn it over to President Trump. That doesn't work. It could work for 2 years. But I think there'd be a lot of constitutional challenges to that gaming of the system under the Constitution if somebody were to do that. And I got news for Donald Trump. I don't think J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio or anybody else is going to go through the time, money, and effort and stress of running for presidency just to turn it over to Donald Trump.
We can't dismiss this as just another unhinged rant. Trump is threatening to abolish voting by mail and gerrymander more states.
And if that was a conspiracy to do that in advance, I think there'd be something about the Supreme Court, some things the Supreme Court would have to weigh in on related to that, if you know what I mean. Okay, yet that hasn't stopped Donald Trump in the last 24 to 48 hours to continue to talk about getting a third term. Here's a posting that he did related to that, where, some trolling group called Women for Trump or whatever, it must be a very small group, posted third term to compensate Trump for a stolen election. I mean, who is really out there that thinks that Joe Biden stole an election? How?
Silly rabbit.
With what? There was no voter fraud that was outcome determinative. There was no Venezuelan software that was flipping votes from Trump to Biden. Trump lost, okay? It may have been aberrational because it was 2020 and it was coming off of COVID and Joe Biden campaigned from a bunker in his house, but he won, okay? Plain and simple. Probably had to do with people not being happy with Donald Trump after Jan 6th and leading an insurrection. And yet there's these numbnuts out there that talk about Trump won. And he should be given a third term to compensate for the fact that he won. No, that's not how the 22nd Amendment runs. At best, he could run as vice president, and if somewhere along the way he could serve 2 more years, and that's it. Now we turn to the erratic behavior and the 25th Amendment. Let's just use Iran for a minute. Again, I'm putting aside his role in a child sex trafficking, 2 sex traffickers, one indicted, convicted, the other one indicted and died, and his role in that and use of the Department of Justice and FBI to cover it up. Let's set that aside. Let's set aside wrecking the economy, which he's done. Let's set aside all of the erratic behavior and attacking our allies and trying to side with Russia over America's interests. Let's set all that aside. Let's just focus on the conduct of the Iranian war, okay? No planning. No planning. Other than any chimpanzee can fire a weapon, okay, if trained properly. Enough bananas, you can get them to do anything. That's easy. The hard part is then what do you do about the 90 million people of a country in Iran and who's going to lead it? Then he said he's going to be responsible for regime change. Then he said he's going to pick the regime change leader. Then he said, I'm not going to change regime change, as people in his administration tried to dial back goals and said, we're just trying to take out the Navy and missiles. Then he said we have to, the Strait of Hormuz, where 27% of American oil went through, that's being blockaded. I didn't really think about that. I'll start bombing around it. Will that work? No. Well, then magical thinking, it'll just unblockade itself, he said at one point. Yeah, that didn't work. And then I'll get my allies, who I've been bashing for 15, 16 months, to come to our aid and join the war. How's that? No, that didn't work. Okay. I'll start bombing civilian electrical plants, power plants, which is a war crime, and I'll threaten that in a social media post. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, wait a minute. We'll escalate to de-escalate, which is what his Treasury Secretary said over the weekend. And then the backdrop of all of this is that there is no ground game, because we cannot win a ground war against Iran. We don't have the proper training or troops. The troops do not want to do this Iranian war.
Nope.
Many of them believe, based on polling, that this is foreign policy being led by Israel. And they don't see this as their war or America First war. So you don't have the esprit de corps and the conviction of your troops. You don't have the ability to send in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of troops into Iran to beat its forces. So you got to do it from the air, but you can't beat Iran with a bombing run because of their culture, because of their religion, because they see this as generational. This war will be over when Iran says it's over, not when Donald Trump declares it over. And they don't want it over until Trump is out of the Middle East, until they control the Strait of Hormuz forever. and make it a toll plaza for them to earn money. Your credit score, it may have taken a big hit over the holidays, and you may not even know it. Sure, a late payment hurts, but so does report to has gone nuts. 25th Amendment, I'll give you erratic behavior that Donald Trump declared. Get ahead of it now with Smart Credit. Go to smartcredit.com/legalaf and start your 7-day trial for just $1. Your results will depend on your unique credit profile, but I think typo-written screed that he's had productive conversations in the last 24 hours after threatening a war crime. My question to that is, who had the conversations? The son-in-law, Jared Kushner, with no diplomatic, technical, or war experience, or maybe Steve Witkoff, the golf buddy cryptocurrency mogul, who's the other special envoy for the region, also has no experience. Is that where you're getting your intel from? This makes you wholly unqualified, incapable to serve the American people as commander-in-chief, as president, which brings us to the 25th Amendment. I set this up as it's like a boxing match. In this corner of the 22nd Amendment, in this corner of the 25th Amendment. 25th Amendment, I'll give you, is that Clause 4, says that if a president, this is the involuntary removal of a president. I'll summarize it this way. If a majority of the president's cabinet think he's gone bonkers, and with the support of the vice president, they then can take him out of office, subject to a vote in the House and the Senate. Okay? Let's unpack
what is JAR?
First, you need a majority of the cabinet picked by Donald Trump. So you got about 12 cabinet members-ish. You need about 7 to jump off sides and say, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to be impeached for war crimes or obstruction or any other crime. It's time to have a conversation. Now, let me speak to the cabinet for a minute. I know a couple of them. It's time to meet separately about a possibility that the person that you report to has gone nuts. If people were wondering, I wonder what it would look like if a president went mad during office. Okay, we're watching it. We're watching it. The erratic behavior, the demented behavior, the attacks and wasting of billions, if not trillions, of taxpayer dollars on his perceived political targets and enemies, his distraction from things that matter to the American people, his destruction or attempted destruction or chloroforming of the American economy. That's what it looks like. The scandal-ridden, lurching from one constitutional crisis or one scandal of immorality to the next. Meet separately. Have a conversation. Do a straw poll. See if you have 7 votes. Okay? Now, J.D. Vance, if you really want to be president of the United States one day, and that's not something I take lightly, nor do I want you to accomplish that, you will never do it on the coattails of Donald Trump being seen as his chief enabler. If you step out of the shadows and take a moment and become a true patriot and take out Donald Trump, there will at least begrudgingly be hundreds of millions of people that may reward you for your confidence and for your courage. I'm just saying. Because under the way the 25th Amendment works, we need the vice president to support this. Majority plus vice president takes the president out of office. President then has 4 days to tell Congress whether he agrees. We know he's not going to agree. So he will oppose, which means that 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate will have to agree with the majority of the cabinet to sideline the presidency. Now, we're not going to get the 2/3 House and Senate now. That's where the midterms come in. That's why the midterms are that wild card. At the midterms, I see a world where the Democrats could get 2/3 of the House. 435 seats, you need 2/3. We can get that. I mean, there's predictions now based on just raw data input that out of the 435, I mean, could we get 287? I think we get 250, 260. Could we get another 27, what's left of the Republican carcass, to come over and support it? Maybe. Now, the hardest part is the Senate, because for the Senate, you're going to need 67 votes in the Senate. On a good day, I think the Democrats get 57, 58 Senate seats, which means we're going to need another 8 or 9 Republicans to come over and support that as well. But if the case is made, think about this. Think about if a majority of his cabinet plus the vice president supported it, you might see Republicans coming over to the Democrat side because it'll be seen as a bipartisan issue. Because if they have gone that step, that nuclear step of triggering the 25th Amendment, some bad shit that they've seen that we haven't has happened. So I think it could happen. Starts with the midterms again. How many times do we talk about in hot takes the need to vote, register your friends and family to vote, and vote on midterm? Starts with the House and the Senate to give some confidence and run interference for the cabinet and call for the 25th Amendment and have it heard loud and clear. And the more Donald Trump talks about that he's going to stay for a third term, that's the other factor that goes into he is unable to perform his job, that he continues to talk about being a constitutional criminal. Here's a clip of Donald Trump musing about staying in for a third term. Play it.
I tried a bunch of different probiotics before seed.
And they didn't help. It addressed.
You said you were not joking about a third term, about possibly wanting a third term. Does that mean you're not planning to leave office on January 20th?
I'm not looking at that, but I'll tell you, I have had more people ask me to have a third term, which is, in a way, it's fourth term, because the other election, the 2020 election was totally rigged. So it's sort of a fourth term in a certain way. I just don't want the credit for the second, because Biden was so bad. He did such a bad job. And I think that's one of the reasons that I'm popular, if you want to know the truth. I think I'm popular because we've done a great job. I think we've had the best almost 100 days of any president. And most people are saying that. And it's an honor. We're bringing back our country. We're respected as a country again. And we're strongly respected. And people are amazed. I was with some very important people today, and they said that they've never seen a turnaround of a country as fast as this. Even look at our border. We have nobody coming in. And you can come into our country, but you have to come in legally. But we have nobody coming in to our country. It's almost shut down. They've never seen anything like this.
An appropriate Constitution limits a president to 2 terms. Is it your understanding that they have to
I don't even want to talk about it. I'm just telling you, I have had more people say, please run again. They said, we have a long way to go. Oh, my God.
You talking about the person in the mirror?
And yet recently, with a sly little smile like the Cheshire Cat, he said, no, I've been told I can't stay in. Play that clip.
Everyone's 401k is hitting records. So we have the greatest economy we've ever had. I have my highest poll numbers that I've ever had.
Thank you. You're welcome.
And, based on what I read, I guess I'm not allowed to run. So we'll see what happens.
Well,
I don't think he said that. I don't think he used that term, but it's a very interesting thing. I have the best numbers for any president in many years, any president. And I would say that if you read it, it's pretty clear. I'm not allowed to run. It's too bad. I mean, it's stupid. But we have a lot of great people.
So which is it? What he's doing is he's trolling America to try to remain relevant, as it looks like he's going to get wiped out at the midterms. But it's also him flirting with this issue is yet another grounds to take him out under the 25th Amendment and force the issue with the cabinet and with the vice president. Maybe it'll take impeachment proceedings to be started, which is a lot easier because you only need 218 votes to impeach, and then you need a majority in the Senate as well, or 2/3 in the Senate as well to convict. But let's get the impeachment going of some of these cabinet members. That may bring them round, if you know what I mean. I'm glad you're here on the Midas Touch Network and on Legal AF. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button on both channels, Legal AF and Midas Touch. Till my next report, this is Mike. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither.
Okay, let's get to Candace. I was trying to see what was going on, but I don't see what Denise was talking about right now. But I'm sure as soon as I get off of this, it's gonna pop up, and I'm be like, oh man, oh man, White House. Hold on, I was trying to catch it, but I'm not gonna hold it. Let's go to Candace. Let's see what this is about. Let's talk. Candace, talk. Let's go.
All right, you guys, happy Monday. It is heating up. It's heating up, ladies and gentlemen, because after Joe Kent resigned as the director of counterterrorism, there was this instant stream of Israel firsters who accused him of leaking to me. All right, Joe Kent immediately came under attack, and curiously, Andrew Colvett retweeted someone who suggested that Joe Kent should be arrested for leaking classified documents. Whoa, why is Andrew Colvett upset with Joe Kent? Is he upset with Joe Kent? Well, it would certainly appear that Turning Point wants to exact revenge because, you guessed it, Joe Kent told the truth about something, and that something made Erica Kirk, Charlie's wife, look very foolish. And on that note, you guys, I have got some unbelievably explosive news about that now infamous tarmac hug, the one that's been living inside of me since Charlie's death. Let's jump right into it. Welcome back to Candace. I see the chat saying no battle bun today. That is correct, no battle bun today, but I promise you we are going to do battle, okay? We can jump right into Joe Kent. Joe Kent, after resigning, went onto Tucker Carlson, and he communicated some rather explosive bits of news to share regarding Charlie Kirk's investigation, right? He basically says the FBI stopped him from investigating. I'll let you listen to his words from his own mouth. Take a listen.
And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June, in the West Wing, in the stairway. And I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and it's a small, you've been in the West Wing, it's small, it's a tight space. And he said, Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran. Very loudly.
He was single-minded.
And he walked off, and he went, I believe, into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran, and he said, Joe, stop us from getting...
I stopped him from investigating. I'll let you listen to his words from his own mouth. Take a listen.
And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June, in the West Wing, in the stairway. And I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and it's a small, you've been in the West Wing, it's small, it's a tight space. And he said, Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran. Very loudly.
He was single-minded.
And he walked off, and he went, I believe, into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, and then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that. It's a data point. It's a data point that we need to look into.
What do you mean when you say we're not allowed to ask any questions about that?
We've been told that this individual, Robinson, is a lone gunman, and maybe he is. But the investigation that I was a part of, the National Counterterrorism Center was a part of, we were stopped from continuing to investigate. And the FBI will say that they stopped that because they wanted to have turn everything over to the Utah state authorities. Everything's going to trial. It's very, very sensitive. But there was still a lot for us to look into that I can't really get into. But there was still linkage for us to investigate that we needed to run down. And I'm not making any conclusions. I'm not saying
No, I don't think you are.
because of this happened. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's unanswered questions. We know the pressure because of the text messages that have been made public, that Charlie was under a lot of pressure from a lot of pro-Israel donors. And again, we know Charlie was advocating to President Trump against this war with Iran. And we knew at the end of the 12-day war, at the end of Midnight Hammer, that the Israelis were going to come back and ask us to go back to war again.
Right.
So we have a lot of data points between Butler, the assassination attempts against President Trump, the breaches of his security, what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Now, of course, this instantly began trending. It's shocking you have somebody who is the director, former director of national counterterrorism, telling you that somebody stopped him. He was stopped from investigating whether or not there could have been any foreign leads or foreign involvement. He says, I don't know for sure, but I do know that we had things that we would have investigated had it not been for Kash Patel. Now, we had already known that something was brewing between him and Kash Patel, right? That made it into the Daily Mail at some point. We had covered it. You would think that him sitting down with Tucker and revealing this would shock the senses of Turning Point USA, that it would shock the senses of his wife. They would go, what? Get Kash on the phone immediately. I need to speak to Kash Patel. I would need to know why he was stopped. Why Joe Kent was stopped from investigating. I demand to know why this happened. And then they should further demand that investigation to take place, right? Was there foreign involvement? But that's, of course, not what is going to happen following his appearance. That's never how it works at Turning Point USA. They always forget how to just pretend that they aren't guilty. You know what I mean? They just don't know how to act surprised or dismayed or concerned that there could have been foreign involvement. They always do the opposite thing that the rest of the world is doing, right? And this time, they're angry at Joe Kent. The Israel First crowd, like I said, immediately began demanding that he spend time in prison for leaking what they claimed are classified documents. Alex Clark, best known for posing in high boots on top of Charlie's vigil site just a mere days after he was assassinated, she had this to say on X. She said, Joe Kent is clearly no friend to Charlie, as he has actively participated and or egged on behind the scenes in the degradation of his wife. How anyone could defend him in any way after that disgusts me. Fake friends. Obviously, what's missing from that is any proof, right? I have never heard from any person that Joe Kent egged on anyone going after Erica Kirk. In fact, in terms of public commentators who have gone after Erica Kirk, they normally loop me in with Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly. I stand alone in that group. Tucker Carlson has said he is a friend of Erica Kirk. Megyn Kelly has said she's a friend of Erica Kirk. Joe Kent, I have a bad word about Erica Kirk. So, is Turning Point going to supply any receipts for the fact that he egged on something that was harmful to Erica Kirk? Jack Posobiec, who works with Turning Point USA in a lot of different ways, but also is military and has served the country, and therefore, like most military men, respect.
Hold on. It's sticking. Hello, thank you for the floating hearts. Hold on. Okay. Hold on, let me make sure I'm back. Can y'all hear me? Huh? Can y'all hear me?
Joe Kent's accomplishment. He came under fire. A friend of Erica Kirk.
Y'all hear
Joe
me?
Kent, I have never heard utter a bad word about Erica Kirk. So, is Turning Point going to supply any receipts for the fact that he egged on something that was harmful to Erica Kirk? Jack Posobiec, who works with Turning Point USA in a lot of different ways, but also is military and has served the country, and therefore, like most military men, respect Joe Kent's accomplishment. He came under fire for merely listing, absent any commentary, Joe Kent's qualifications and his background, having served this country. This is what Jack Posobiec wrote, and I'm going to show you how Laura Loomer responded. He wrote, Joe Kent has 6 Bronze Star medals with 5 Oak Leaf clusters across 11 combat deployments as a Green Beret in some of the biggest battles of the GWOT. And they were infuriated. You should see the comments under this. They couldn't stand this. You cannot say anything good about Joe Kent. Laura jumps in and says, why are you defending a known leaker who is undermining President Trump? There is now speculation that Joe Kent may have been leaking information to Candace Owens for the purpose of attacking Mrs. Erica Kirk. What are you doing? Okay, I can tell you right now that that is completely untrue. Joe Kent did not leak me anything for the purpose of attacking Erica Kirk. But here is what's even more interesting, okay?
Wow.
They don't realize that they're implying that Erica Kirk is guilty of something, right? Let's actually imagine what they're saying is true. Like Joe Kent, let's say Joe Kent is the one that leaked me crucial information regarding Charlie Kirk, okay? And the investigation. Well, how could that hurt Erica Kirk? That should hurt the feds if they're lying. It could only hurt someone who is lying to the public about what actually occurred on that day. The implication is that him leaking something harmed Erica Kirk. They're not saying he is a liar. They're saying he is a leaker. I find that to be interesting, and they never think through their attacks. So we got to figure out what it is they're talking about. Why are they so upset about what Joe Kent said? How could this harm Erica? Well, we finally were able to determine what it is that they're talking about because Andrew Colvett addressed the claims directly today on Charlie Kirk's radio show. Take a listen.
Oh, wow. Let's go.
The central claim, though, that I want to get to was Joe Kent leaking certain information. And over the weekend, a clip came up, and it's gone a little bit viral. I want to address it. Let's go ahead and play it. Cut 16.
The way that those screenshots got to Candace is via Joe Kent. Andrew Colvett. Andrew was in the chat group as well. He was one of the 9 people in the group. And he admitted at first, to be perfectly honest, at first he was denying it. We didn't know how Candace got them. But then he admitted on the air, on his show, that he had given these text messages and he gave them he said that on the show that he gave them to someone in the government. He told us that he gave them to someone in the government. Joe Kent was someone that we knew that there was a relationship there between Charlie and Andrew and Joe. We knew that when Charlie would visit Washington, D.C., he would talk to Joe. We kind of verified that the messages had been given by Andrew to Joe Kent and that Joe Kent had been the one to pass them on to Candace.
All right, so Verified's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. I do want to confirm what I can confirm, and that is that, yes, in the immediate aftermath, I did provide the group chat to Joe Kent. We don't throw around accusations recklessly here. We don't. There's a lot of people that do that online. We don't do that. We think that's keeping in the spirit of Charlie's spirit. And the way we choose to do things is we try and be responsible. So, yes, in a spirit of looking at every lead, turning over every stone, we wanted everybody that needed to know anything that we knew. Not just,
Kent had been the one to pass them on to Candace.
All right, so Verified's doing a lot of heavy lifting there. I do want to confirm what I can confirm, and that is that, yes, in the immediate aftermath, I did provide the group chat to Joe Kent. We don't throw around accusations recklessly here. We don't. There's a lot of people that do that online. We don't do that. We think that's keeping in the spirit of Charlie's spirit. And the way we choose to do things is we try and be responsible. So, yes, in a spirit of looking at every lead, turning over every stone, we wanted everybody that needed to know anything that we knew. Not just, and by the way, we've been accused of not being interested in the truth.
And just to remind people what this is referring to, this is after Charlie's murder, there were text messages from a private group chat that were made public and were used to, frankly, kick off the big conspiracy theory that we've run into over and over again, which is that Israel or the Jews had Charlie murdered.
Yes. So,
which we do not believe.
But we have been accused of we're not interested in the truth. The actual fact of the matter is that behind the scenes, we have given everything we know to give, every single piece of information. This was one of them. I was told I could trust Joe Kent. I provided the screen grabs to Joe Kent.
ADOLPH, baby.
I don't know what happened to them at that point. Okay, I just want to make that very clear. Eventually, Joe did message me and suggest that I make those screen grabs public. I declined because those were shared privately. I didn't want to be reckless with them in the public. There could be innocent people on that group chat that would then be harmed. So I declined. But then, fast forward another week or two, and they were made public. So that's what I know, is that Joe suggested that they be made public. I declined, then they were made public. Can I 100% categorically say that he leaked them? No. But those are the facts. Maybe somebody on his team, maybe they got passed around, maybe somebody else leaked them. But those are the facts of the matter, and that's what I know.
Yeah, the part that Andrew's just forgetting to add there is that he himself told me about the text chain. Andrew was telling multiple people about the text chain. And I'm so glad that he is telling the truth, that this was going around. And this is their bone to pick with Joe Kent. This is what put a bee in their bonnets. This is what has upset Turning Point USA. As a refresher, Turning Point chose to stay entirely mum on the topic of Charlie's support for Israel and instead allowed a force of Zionists who were harassing him in his last days, Zionists like Josh Hammer, to lie about what Charlie was going through, right? So I came out and told the truth. Megyn Kelly came out and told the truth. Tucker Mountain told the truth. He was having changing opinions on Israel. Now we're way far down and we know how true that is. Brett Weinstein has released his messages about Iran. You hear Joe Kent telling you the last time he saw him in the White House, he said that everybody knew this. And Turning Point did not confirm it and allowed Zionists to lie about that. Then I released the concrete proof in the form of the text chain, which then forced them to confess that there was a communication that took place less than 24 hours before Charlie was shot and killed. And more crucially, it was a communication that took place shortly before Charlie began texting his security and Andrew Colvett, which he also told me about, that he thought they were going to kill him. Okay? Something that Erica initially denied to the public. So what we have here is that Turning Point is angry because this made both them and the new CEO and chairman, who also happens to be Charlie Kirk's wife, look bad. Right? Liars hate when they get caught, but narcissistic liars, rather than repenting when they get caught, get angry, and they seek revenge on the people who expose their lies. They never feel any shame. Okay, they don't possess any shame. The rabbi is not ashamed that he lied and said, Charlie never blinked on Israel. He's not ashamed that he lied. He's angry he got caught. Josh Hammer was angry he got caught. I'm exploring legal options. I should be allowed to lie to the public and make it look like Candace is crazy, right? They view themselves as the victims when they get caught being dishonest. Now, you should remember liars, they are nocturnal creatures. They hate the light. Me, I love it. Daylight is the best disinfectant. And I have some more interesting information. Yeah. Your punishment is more truth. Mr. Blake Neff and Andrew Colvett.
Right.
Foremost, I'll just state this, and this could be nothing, but I do want to say this. On September 5th, while Charlie was away in Asia, that Rabbi Wolicki and Rabbi Pesach Wolicki, who was the one who shouted me out, he had a call with Justin Strife and Andrew Colvett. Now, I find that to be interesting because Rabbi Wolicki does not have any role within Turning Point USA. He claims to be one of Charlie's personal advisors. I don't know why he would have a phone call with Andrew and Justin Strife. Why do two Catholics need to speak to a rabbi while Charlie's away in Asia? Now, there could be a reasonable explanation. I would just like to hear it. It's another interesting data point for me. But there's something bigger, actually something that is explosive, it's massive, and it may even involve those pesky little Egyptian planes that were following Turning Point faith events for years. And this most definitely will require a response from Turning Point USA. So let me at first jog your memory about the infamous tarmac hug that lives inside of us all. I had told you all that I spoke to Andrew Colvett on September 10th and the immediate days thereafter, and he specifically told me something that became problematic down the line. It wasn't problematic when he told me, it became problematic down the line. He told me that he was on a massive plane all by himself. I was under the impression it was a G5 or a G6, and he was, after Charlie got shot, racing to Provo, alone on this plane, with no one to speak to, with anxiety building inside of him. Finally, they land in Provo. The plane doors open, and the first person he sees is Erica Kirk. Suddenly, all that built-up anxiety releases when he meets her on the tarmac and boo-hoo cries in her arms. The exact word he used was collapsed. He collapsed into Erica's arms. And he told me this. painted a picture in my mind and thought about it of like, wow, could you imagine being on a plane all by yourself, massive plane, you got this G5 to yourself, and you got no one to talk to, and then suddenly you see someone and and it's the first time you really acknowledge that Charlie's dead, right? On that conversation, I am 10,000% certain, okay? I was also put immediately under the impression that it was Charlie's plane. So I was then surprised when Andrew's story down the line seemed to shift to me, and it became that he was with his wife flying from Santa Barbara. Wife? No, that just can't be right. I said this instantly. I was locked in emotionally due to the adrenaline of everything that was going on those days. Andrew told me his wife asked if he wanted her to then fly to Utah, and he told her, of course. Okay? Conversation that I registered as his wife having flown separate and later from him. In fact, I was so convinced that I did not miss on this, that I heard Andrew and understood him correctly, that they had flown separately, that it was among the highest priority items for me. I had the opportunity to sit down with Erica Kirk and Justin Strife. I had very few questions, and one of them was pertaining to the planes. I asked them who flew on each plane on that day, and more specifically, I said, did Andrew fly with his wife? Did not tell them about the tarmac hug. I kept that card close because I was going to be able to determine whether or not they were lying to me about who flew on which planes, if I just didn't tell them that I knew about this tarmac hug, right? Justin Strife told me that he booked the planes. He said, I booked the planes. I'm paraphrasing here. He was like, and Andrew's wife was supposed to be on the plane, but I don't know if she got on it. Let me double check, he said. I'll get back to you and I'll double check. And he jotted down as something to get back to me. And he did eventually get back to me. He says, later, the next day or so, he texts me and says, she was on the plane. And yeah, his excuse was like, I'm not sure because even though I scheduled her, sometimes, it was such a crazy day, things could have changed and maybe she found her own way there in the end. But of course, I looked at Erica, expecting her to pipe up and say, yes, she most definitely did fly with Andrew. You put that pencil down, Justin. I know, of course, that she flew with Andrew because we met on this tarmac and had this hug and cried. But no, Erica blanked me. She did the Erica thing, the eye. She stood there. Erica is the person who should have been able to answer that question instantly. It is not every day that you have a boohoo cry on a tarmac with a married man while his wife is standing behind him on the day of your husband's assassination.
I remember that.
Is that fair? Am I being fair here? I feel like I'm being fair. It's fair to assume that Erica should have remembered that Andrew Colvette's wife was flying with him, but she didn't. Also, the other reason why I felt they were lying was, why would any person wait an hour for the PR guy to land before racing to the hospital to see their husband after he was shot? That doesn't make sense. Erica would have had to wait an hour on the tarmac for Andrew Colvette's plane. I instantly felt they were lying, and now I believe that I have evidence that proves that I was correct and they were indeed lying. And it is highly likely that Andrew flew by himself on Charlie's plane, plausibly Charlie's plane, because I now have a message chain from that day. Arguably the most significant text chain that took place on September 10th at that company. The text chain pertaining to public relations. How are you going to communicate to the public, to the world, to employees, what is happening with Charlie Kirk? How are you going to tell them? How are you going to explain to them that Charlie Kirk has passed away? So we go back to September 10th. Charlie Kirk has been shot. Instantly, the most important person at that company becomes Justin Strife, because he's been promoted to COO. Just 7 days earlier, he gets promoted to COO. So he's the number 2 guy here. And of course, the most important person is also going to be our public relations, our longtime spokesperson, Andrew Colvette, and their chief marketing officer, Marina Mina's. Now, if Andrew Colvette's story that he is now telling the public is true, he was at home with his wife in Santa Barbara when Charlie was shot, and then he mysteriously waits for 3 hours until he flies private with his wife at 3:19 p.m. Utah time. I'm going to keep everything in Utah time today because it's just easier that way, because you don't have to worry about the time changes, okay? So 3 hours, almost exactly 3 hours, he departs Santa Barbara. I could get him a private plane faster than that. I'm going, what? That's not, nope. He told me sprinted, whatever. That would mean that during that 3-hour time frame in Santa Barbara, Andrew Colvette should have been available, right? To freely communicate with the team, the press, until that flight departs at 3:19.
Were they in there
That's his
getting
job.
it on?
That's literally his job. That is not what these messages reveal. These messages that I am about to show you, they are in Pacific time, so you're going to have to adjust them all forward 1 hour in your mind. At this time, it's Arizona time, and at this time, Arizona is on Pacific time. So I'm gonna do that already when I discuss these messages 1 hour forward. And don't worry, I'm then gonna show you a nice, clean calendar entry so that you can take a screenshot and understand how this went down with the details of the communications afterwards so that everything is crystal clear.
Okay, why am I not
At
seeing
1:02
Monty?
Utah time, so 39 minutes after Charlie is shot, 12:23, Andrew Colvett messages the group, and he says, telling them for communications, we can confirm publicly that he's been shot. Take a look at this. Okay. In this group, we have Justin Strife, we have Andrew Colvett, we have Marina Menez, and we have Aubrey, who is later going to be fired over an Uber ride that Marina overhears. Here is that text chain. Okay. So at 1:29 p.m., again, I'm adjusting forward, Utah time, he is then informed that CNN wants to have someone on the show. Everyone's reaching out, right, to speak about it. And he instantly says no. Just a minute later, at 1:30 p.m., he is asked, can Morgan do a news hit at 8 p.m. Eastern? And there's no response. Okay, so at 1:30 p.m., there's no response from Andrew until almost exactly 2 hours later at 3:25 p.m. Again, this is Mountain Time. 3:25 p.m. Utah time, he asks back, is she on Fox? Like, is Morgan on Fox? And then he replies to that initial question that was sent to him at 1:30, and he declares why he's been absent for 2 hours. So he's following up, and he says at 3:26, sorry, on the plane, this just loaded. This just loaded. That's an important way of describing something. In other words, I am sorry that it has been 2 hours, and I did not reply to you. I didn't get this message because this just loaded now, okay? Maybe you're coming into land, whatever it is. Now all your messages are starting to load. Messages, as we know, cannot load when you are on a plane if it's a plane that doesn't have Wi-Fi. He is saying that the messages just came in effectively. Do we agree? That's what that means. This just loaded. This time frame from 1:30 Utah time up until 3:25 Utah time matches within the time frame that
I found something way fresher than takeout. Cook Unity.
Can y'all hit the like button, please?
Charlie's plane is traveling. Andrew shouldn't have even taken it off. Nothing. Okay? I'm showing you this is Charlie's plane, and that plane is going to leave at 2:31 p.m. from Scottsdale and land into Provo at 3:31 p.m. And we're going to be told that Erica, this just loaded. This just loaded. That's an important way of describing something. In other words, I am sorry that it has been 2 hours and I did not reply to you. I didn't get this message because this just loaded now, okay? Maybe you're coming into land, whatever it is. Now all your messages are starting to load. Messages, as we know, cannot load when you are on a plane if it's a plane that doesn't have Wi-Fi. He is saying that the messages just came in effectively. Do we agree? That's what that means. This just loaded. This time frame from 1:30 Utah time up until 3:25 Utah time matches within the time frame that Charlie's plane is traveling. Andrew shouldn't have even taken off. Nothing. Okay? I'm showing you this is Charlie's plane, and that plane is going to leave at 2:31 p.m. from Scottsdale and land into Provo at 3:31 p.m. And we're going to be told that Erica and Tyler and Elizabeth McCoy and Stacey Sheridan are on this plane. But this text chain makes it look like it's Andrew. Okay? Now, I can tell you more, giving even more credence to the claim that Andrew was unavailable because he was on a plane during that time is the fact that Marina Menez, the chief marketing officer, personally called Aubrey at 2:05 p.m. Utah time and asked her to draft the death statement, which was going to go out to the entire staff because, here's what's crucial, because Andrew's currently on a plane and I don't have it within me to draft this statement. Can you, Aubrey, draft this statement? Essentially, Aubrey, the 26-year-old, is now responsible for the unbelievably emotionally heavy statement that has to be drafted in Andrew's stead because he's on a... Can we just take a moment to appreciate that Marina This psycho is going to then, just a few months later, be behind getting Aubrey fired because she had a conversation with an Uber driver. Like, I am sorry, if you ever make your employee go through the emotional trauma of having to draft statements to the press and draft statements to the entire company to announce that their CEO has died on the day that they have died, you can't even process the emotion of learning this, that Charlie Kirk is dead. That employee should just be allowed to chill and do nothing for, like, I don't know, 3 years. 3 years. This all came down to a 26-year-old, and they're gonna then make her work insane hours and then fire her through weekends, and then fire her and her fiance because they had a conversation with an Uber driver. And she wasn't loyal to Erica. Like, I'm sorry, that feels criminal to me. I know it's not literally criminal, but it feels criminal, like it should be a crime. Like, if that's me, I'm talking to a lawyer, because that's crazy, okay? And I never say that, but this is beyond insane. Now that I'm really processing what they put this person through emotionally, only to them fire them and not even give them a bonus after they took in that much money, like, what? Where's a lawyer, okay? Anyway, back into this. I just got angry, and I stepped aside. Now I'm back. I'm back here. Anyway, this means, obviously, that Andrew had to have been on an earlier flight, just as I had remembered. We now have hard evidence. We have the call logs. We have text messages that Andrew was unavailable from 1:30 p.m. to 3:25 p.m., and it's about to get stranger. Gonna get stranger. So at 2:27 p.m. Mountain Time, okay, remember, this is all adjusted for Utah time, the email goes out to the employees confirming that Charlie Kirk has passed away, drafted from, like, a 26-year-old. And then Andrew is going to disappear again. Disappears again from the chat. And this is where it's going to get especially interesting because he disappears during a most critical time. Again, this is his literal job. They have just sent employees an email that Charlie Kirk has passed away and that the office is going to be closed for the rest of the day. Of course, a corporate-wide email to that effect when the entire world is watching is going to leak. And what's going to then happen is they're going to get a sudden influx. The PR is going to get a ton of emails. Aubrey's going to get a crap ton of messages. People wanting a confirmation. Is this a real email? Is it true? Is Charlie dead? Is the office closed? At 3:49 Utah time, she's going to ask her boss, who's been unavailable, should I confirm or deny? Right? We can pull those messages back up. And Justin Strife, I think it's the can I confirm or deny one, is a different one. I don't know if you guys have that. Justin Strife is going to come back and say, confirm or deny what? And she's going to say that the office is closed, to which Justin's going to say yes. And if the email is authentic, she's going to then say to him yes. And if the email is authentic, they want to know. The press wants to know if this is a real email and whether or not the office is closed. And Justin, who, remember, he told me that he booked the planes and he therefore should know if Andrew is unavailable. He then jumps into the chat and he says, it's your call, Andrew. It's your call. Obviously, it's true. That's at 3:52 p.m. If you guys need to pull that, please pull that so we can throw that up later. And there is, curiously, again, going to be no response from Andrew until 4:25 p.m. Mountain, Utah time. And when he finally replies, he again is going to have another excuse. He's going to say, curiously, my internet just came back on.
Just lying all the way around the table.
These fumes have taken over the internet, and if you don't have them yet, you are completely missing out. I'm breaking down exactly why.
My internet just came back on. There is, curiously, again, going to be no response from Andrew until 4:25 p.m. Mountain, Utah time. When he finally replies, he again is going to have another excuse. He's going to say, curiously, my internet just came back on. My internet just came back on.
Were they kicking it or what?
Okay. So we have a 2-hour window, and then we have this hour window in which Andrew Colvett is unavailable to do the most important thing on the most important job. And in each instance, he doesn't have internet. What goes on in Santa Barbara? I don't have internet in Santa Barbara. It's very strange. So now I'm going to place all of this on a calendar, and Skylar, just shout me out when you have that second part in my ear of the message. I'm going to place this on a calendar so that you guys can see all the moving pieces here. Okay. And I'm also going to add some Egyptian planes that were transponding here. So I find they line up a little too precise. Remember, there was one Egyptian plane that was just transponding on a tarmac in Provo, mysteriously just turned on, and I always felt like that was something that shouldn't be ignored. But, you know, they weren't concerned about it. Not Turning Point, not Erica. They're cracking jokes. They're not interested at all in foreign involvement. Joe Kent, oh, what a terrible, indecent human being for being interested in knowing whether or not, wanting to find out whether or not there was foreign involvement. We hate this man, right? Let's look at this. Let's look at this calendar. And you guys can screenshot this, that you have it. First, there's that early morning that Egyptian plane is going to transpond from 10:05 a.m. to 11:34 a.m. This is all Utah, Mountain Standard Time, guys, okay? Then we have Charlie. Then we have these blocks in which Andrew Colvett is unavailable, okay? Those blue blocks are Andrew Colvett being unavailable according to his own chain, and when he responds and says that the message is just loading, that's that second block in which we have the Egyptian plane transponding in purple. And during that time is also Charlie's flight, from Scottsdale to Provo. Okay? So you can just, again, screenshot this. You can see it. It's like, okay, Andrew's not available. Can you please drop us in? This is all happening at a time where he should be here. Andrew, according to his story, does not have anything to do until 3:19 p.m. So why are the communications coming from executives that Andrew is unavailable and he is on a plane when Andrew is not supposed to be on a plane? All times adjusted for Utah. I'm just going to keep saying that because inevitably there will be someone that says this is wrong. It's all times have been adjusted to reflect Mountain Standard Time, Utah time, so that we could get it all on board. Okay? Now, there's something that I certainly would like to add here, and this, to be clear, is now moving toward speculation. But the reality is that secure communications happen via satellite. Okay, that's how planes communicate. Planes are not using cell phone towers. They're above cell phone towers. They are communicating via satellite. And that is what you would have, satellite phones, if you're like in the military and running a ground operation. Satellite phones are what intelligence agencies use because they sit outside of landline infrastructure, they sit outside of cell phone towers, and this is a fact. The Department of Defense, which is all over the story for some reason, Lori is part of the Department of Defense, they actually have their own satellites entirely, right? They're not even having to connect to other satellites in the air. They have their own satellites, obviously, for the purpose of running operations. So were they to run any sort of ground operations, they'd likely hand those out to their guys. And this may be nothing, but while we're just speculating, Blake Neff sure did have an interesting way of describing his phone call with his mom after the shot rang out. Remember, he was defending Mikey McCoy and talked about how he ran, and after he ran, he called his mom. Listen to the words he uses at the end here. Take a listen.
I remember he calls Erica. Around the same time, I pull out my phone and I call my mom just to say, hey, Mom, there's been a shooting. You're going to see it on the news. I'm okay. You know, pray for me. I've got to go. And I remember that call. And around the time I put that phone away, and then he immediately calls his dad. He calls Robin McCoy.
I put that phone away is a very interesting way of putting it. No one calls their phone that phone, right? I put that phone away.
You have more than one
phone.
phone.
Two phones. That's what it implies. It implies you have two phones, right? Otherwise you just say I put my phone away. I put that phone away. He says it so casually because you don't think about it. That's these little things that happen. Again, it's just a data point that I'd be interested in exploring. Did he have another phone? Maybe he did. Maybe he had another work phone. And so he literally meant I put that phone, my personal phone, away, and it was my work phone. But if I'm running counterterrorism, I'm interested. They're not gonna appoint me. Communicate. Planes are not using cell phone towers. They're above cell phone towers. They are communicating via satellite, and that is what you would have satellite phones.
So that phone he
if you're
used
like
to
in the military and running a ground operation. Satellite phones are what intelligence agencies use because they sit outside of landline infrastructure. They sit outside of cell phone towers, and this is a fact. The Department of Defense, which is all over the story for some reason. Lori is part of the Department of Defense. They actually have their own satellites entirely, right? They're not even having to connect to other satellites near. They have their own satellites, obviously, for the purpose of running operations. So were they to run any sort of ground operations, they'd likely hand those out to their guys. And this may be nothing, but while we're just speculating, Blake Neff sure did have an interesting way of describing his phone call with his mom after the shot rang out. Remember, he was defending Mikey McCoy and talked about how he ran, and after he ran, he called his mom. Listen to the words he uses at the end here. Take a listen.
I remember he calls Erica. Around the same time, I pull out my phone and I call my mom just to say, Mom, there's been a shooting. You're going to see it on the news. I'm okay. Pray for me. I've got to go. And I remember that call. And around the time I put that phone away, and then he immediately calls his dad. He calls Rob McCoy.
I put that phone away is a very interesting way of putting it. No one calls their phone that phone.
That phone.
Right? I put that phone away implies you have two phones. That's what it implies. It implies you have two phones, right? Otherwise you just say, I put my phone away. I put that phone away. He says it so casually because you don't think about it. That's these little things that happen. Again, it's just a data point that I'd be interested in exploring. Did he have another phone? Maybe he did. Maybe he had another work phone. And so he literally meant I put that phone, my personal phone, away, and it was my work phone. But if I'm running counterterrorism, I'm interested. They're not gonna appoint me. I thought about it over the weekend. I was like, oh, maybe they'll place me in there. Joe Kent's gone and resigned, and I have not been called yet from the White House. Anyway, I'm going to show you guys, by the way, that second part of the chat that we did not have for you so that you could see it, where I was discussing Justin Strife jumping in, saying, confirm or deny what? All these messages are coming in. Is the email authentic? Yes, you can see these times, and it is at the end there at what would be 4:25 p.m. Utah time that Andrew jumps in and says, my internet just came back on. Justin Strife says, you may need to wait until AK is on the ground. My internet just came back on. Why is he gone all day? What's going on? What's going on? Where are you? Who are you communicating with? What's going on here? Okay. Another maybe purely speculative bit of information is the Y refi plane. I never liked their story here. I never liked this plane called the Y refi plane because that's who Erica told me was on the plane, right? Y refi was sponsoring the event. He's the guy that walks over and is all like whatever in the video, and that they flew in. And I always felt like I'm interested because why? First off, why are you flying into Duncan Aviation? Duncan Aviation is not where you fly into. Usually you fly into Signature, you fly into Atlantic. Duncan Aviation is particularly, it has a bent towards military, and it is for fixing planes. So what are we doing at Duncan Aviation full stop? I don't really know. Anyways, the Y refi plane had some interesting stops that David I would like to bring up here. It just happens to go from Scottsdale in the morning to Barbara at 10:24. Then from Barbara, it goes to Scottsdale. And if you actually put this up, you will start to realize that when this plane lands, at the times that it lands, like when it arrives in Provo at 10:06, it happens to land at a time where suddenly that plane, the Egyptian planes are going to be transponding. Okay, same deal when it lands in Scottsdale at 1:44. It's suddenly it's like when these blue planes start to transpond, you're just a refi plane now added here, and it's interesting. Like right when they land, see it lands in Provo, and then right away that Egyptian plane starts transponding. Then it lands in Scottsdale, and right away that Egyptian plane starts transponding. It's like planes can communicate to each other on a satellite if they know which satellite they're going to. Again, I'm in speculation zone, but I don't like the idea this was drop off, but it also then goes to Santa Barbara and also then comes to Scottsdale. It's like all the places that are involved that day. And yes, this plane is somehow associated to Turning Point USA. It gives me the ick. And people who lie and people who are like abusive in their lies, like you get caught in your lie and then you're angry at people who revealed you, they tend to keep lying, right? It's a pattern.
Absolutely.
It's a personality trait, so to speak. So that's why we call this frequent liar miles. We don't know what's going on. We're going to stay on this week, though, because we are getting close. And justice for that
frequent liar miles. Oh, my God.
The anger that I felt when I really processed that she had to write all of this stuff, then work like 7-hour days, not sleep, only to then not get a raise and to be fired because Marina Mines spoke to an Uber driver. That can't fly in this world. There has to be justice. There's got to be justice for Aubrey. I'm going to start selling Justice for Aubrey tees. Justice for Aubrey. Anyways, we went max. We'll see you guys right after a quick break. All right, you guys, we are only a few months into 2026, and AI is already changing how we work. Tools are getting smarter by automating tasks and saving hours every single week. The reality is, people who learn how to use AI now are the ones who get ahead. .com. Justice for Aubrey. Justice for Aubrey. I'm going to pour some out for Aubrey because this is crazy. This is just absolutely crazy. It's evil, actually. And then she's like, my turning point family, my turning point family.
Oh,
how did you put this person through this? It's sick, actually. Very disturbing. You're
angry.
Why? Because somebody can't vent. And she says she never did vent to the Uber driver. The Uber driver says they vented. Who cares? You're not required to like your boss when you get home, by the way. I have no idea what they say about me in control when they get home. I'm a business, you know what I mean? Anyway, adding more to the Israel firsters' frustrations is the fact that everybody can see that something's not right with Turning Point USA and Erica Kirk, and that includes the biggest podcaster in the world, Joe Rogan. They were so angry because he went on his show and just kind of said water is wet. Take a listen.
Yeah, that Elvis is real. Like, we used to have a fun, kind of playful conspiracy.
Tupac's still alive.
Yeah. Then now it's all out of whack.
Now it's Macron's got a dick.
Exactly.
I've heard Erica Kirk's got a dick. I've heard that one.
Whoa, she seems thrilled right now.
She's an odd duck.
She's a kook for sure.
You ever seen the compilation of her making crazy eyes?
No.
There's a video of her making demon eyes, and every time she makes the eyes, the music.
Me too. That's my opinion too.
It's so ridiculous.
She's possessed.
Well, she just gets intense.
She seems she's having a good time. Well, she was on a reality show, you know.
Yes.
So she's a star.
A little bit.
Maybe.
She was also in some weird CIA documents or CIA films.
Is that right?
Like, yeah. You ever seen those films?
No.
See if you can find those films. There's some weird, like, internal films that they made that she was a part of.
She looks like if a pageant girl was grown up.
100%.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, well, I mean, she essentially was a pageant lady.
Oh, really?
Right? Wasn't she in, like, Miss USA or
I don't know.
I don't know, maybe.
Wasn't she, Jamie?
Got that kind of face.
Oh, I know. Well, there's a thing that people want, right? That attention, fame thing.
Yeah.
That is what they really want. Okay, so Jamie will find it.
Vulnerable that we've presented to congressional officials. 1 being cyber, 2 being hackers, 3 being physical threats, 4th one is solar EMP, and the 5th one is man-made EMP. So the concern that we have is that we put out this critical information, and when we go over this risk analysis, they hear what we're saying, but they don't want to take action.
Well, there are 18 critical infrastructures. Weird, but
very weird. She's doing a CIA informational video.
Weird.
Like an acting gig, or is this something else?
Perhaps. Or,
I
bet even so, you're doing an acting gig for the CIA. Who calls you for that?
Yeah.
You ever get one of those calls?
No.
No, I never got one of those calls.
And my agent never hit me with that one.
Yeah. It's odd. Well, there's a lot of people that think that she was his handler. She was Charlie Kirk's handler. But of course, there's a lot of people that think I have handlers.
We reminded Dad to get life insurance, but now he's just being really weird. Oh, God.
Again, he's just speaking common sense. And I love that he addressed particularly the CIA documentary because they came out and they were suddenly trying to gaslight us and the CIA didn't produce the documentary. Okay, yes, but the head of the CIA is in it. Okay, you gotta get approval from the CIA to be in a CIA documentary. That doesn't just happen casually. Like he says, are you getting that phone call from your agent? And no, she's not acting. She's specifically referring to her mother's business model, EMPs. So she's not acting. She's involved.
She's promoting.
So people, of course, online were so angry about it. The Israel Firsters, Mark Levin, tweeted this. Is this some AI production? If not, what a total disgrace. Then this Eitan Fishberger said, this is some sick stuff from Joe Rogan, as if Erica hasn't been through enough already. How about just acknowledging that you do not have the power to transform reality? Just you're losing this repeat battle to try to tell us that up is down and down is up, and everybody can sense that something is not right with Erica. Everybody can sense that it is not normal for somebody to lie. It's not normal for an organization to be angry. Even if Joe Kent had released every single message and said this is what Charlie was going through, how would that hurt Erica? Somebody explain how that would hurt Erica to get closer to determining what was going on in his life in the last few days, especially when people are lying. None of this would be weird if Josh Hammer came out and was like, dang, we were, he was pretty fired up the day before. I feel so bad. That was our last conversation. They were honest about what happened in the Hamptons. It happens. You get into arguments with people. If I got into an argument with somebody and the police asked me, I wouldn't be up there like, we never had any issues at all. We never even had one miscommunicate. No, that is, he just loved me every second of nothing was weird. I would be like, oh my gosh. We had a massive fight yesterday. Here are the messages. I feel so terrible. Are you kidding me? Gosh, life can be taken from any moment. They don't know how to just be normal and not lie. Just tell the truth. And don't get upset if you believe somebody else is telling the truth. And that's what they're angry about. They are angry that Joe Kent is echoing what everyone has said. We all told the truth instantly. I told you the truth based off of my discussions with Charlie about where his headspace was at when it came to Israel. I didn't need Joe Kent for that. I didn't even know Joe Kent at all. Had never had a single communication with Joe Kent until after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. That is the honest to God truth. I didn't know this man at all. And so this whole idea that everyone's colluding to tell the truth. Megyn Kelly told the truth. Tucker Carlson told the truth. And you guys hate us for that. You guys want us canceled and attacked for having the spine to do what you did not. You were going to allow a hostile takeover of his legacy, and we said hell no. So there it is. Anyway, I'm going to, I didn't realize we were kind of running up against time, and I want to get to your comments. So I think we are going to throw it to a brief break, and we'll come back and I'll answer some of your comments. All right, you guys, when you think about your future, you probably picture your family, your home, and the life that you're building. But here's a harder question. What happens to all of that if you're not here? Life insurance isn't really about you. It's about protecting the people that you love and making sure that they can cover the mortgage, pay off debts, and keep moving forward no matter what happens. That's where Ethos comes in. Ethos makes it simple to protect to clear that fog. Clarity is a powerful yet essential minerals. And because it works gently, there's no harsh detox side effects. There's no headache around the world. So visit clearthefog.org or click the link in the description.org today. All right, you guys, top comments from last episode. Betty writes, saying Erica never sought the spotlight is like saying Ben Shapiro never brings up Israel. And that is in response to Andrew Colbert, who said, Erica didn't ever want the limelight. It's like, I'm sorry, bud. Have you paid attention to my Erica timeline? I can't find a moment when she wasn't seeking the limelight. This next user, Ted Bundy's Ghost, writes, a woman who applied for numerous reality shows can never claim that she was not looking for the limelight. Yeah, it's an absurd allegation that she was not ever pursuing the spotlight. It is just pointedly wrong, and I don't know why he would say it, but he just says stuff a lot of the time, and that's our guy, Andrew Colbert. Your punishment is more truth. Comments on this episode, Lindsay Rowe writes, Candace, your ability to speak truth with clarity and humor is unmatched. In a time that feels upside down, your voice cuts through the noise. The sarcasm isn't just funny, it wakes people up. You are not alone, and you've got an army behind you. It was so good over the weekend. I did my first event in a really long time. I had such anxiety leading up to it. The Catholics for Catholics event, just because watching Charlie be publicly assassinated, not all of us could be like Erica, who was fine the next day and said she felt no fear. I had a lot of fear and anxiety and apprehension, and it just felt so good to get back out into the public and to see so many people at the airport and people that were swarming us. And you do need to plug back in with the fighters. You need to go out and get together with people that are like-minded and to appreciate how, loved you are all the time. You need to go out and see people and take pictures with people and have them, say, I listened to this and I had this little tidbit and I messaged you. So really just want to say thank you to you guys because it just felt like so rehabilitative to be out in public, and we just had a fantastic event at Catholics for Catholics. And I appreciate you guys more than you'll ever know. Jonathan Bino writes, we love you and support you, Candace. Thank you for your voice. God bless you. Thank you, Jonathan. Anthony writes, please start calling it Nevada. I love this show. It disturbs me every time you call it Nevada. Connecticut's not doing that. Look at me, Anthony. Connecticut is not doing it. You. This is even different. You say Nevada. We say Nevada. And Ashley, you say Nevada. So where are you from, Anthony? Where are you from, Anthony? Nobody knows where you're from, Anthony, that you're saying Nevada. That's crazy. I need to know where in the U.S. they're saying Nevada. It's Nevada, not Nevada. People in Nevada say Nevada, but that's just wrong. I don't know what to tell you. What does it even come from? Like, what does the word Nevada mean, actually? It'll help us more. We got to do a whole episode on Nevada one day. Venecita writes, someone start the petition for Candace's nominations for Joe Kent's former job. I just always think I'm going to get called. I thought Turning Point was going to call me when they needed somebody in PR because I could help them. Like, hey, you guys have to pretend you're surprised about the Egyptian planes. Like, you're concerned. You guys have to pretend like you're surprised that Joe Kent is saying that the investigation was blocked. You should be concerned, not angry, concerned. I can help them with regular human emotions. If everybody's a droid at Turning Point USA, they need me. I can go in there, give them a little bit of humanity. This is how humans feel when they hear this information, and I can help, input their algorithms so they understand, cannot process. What do you mean I'm supposed to feel sad or concerned? I'm here for that. Hire me. Bonita.
They're clones.
To start a podcast with Riverside, all you need is a concept and a way to record it. Here's how it works.
I heard that she's no longer alive. But I don't know if it's true, but they say she a clone. And I'm talking about Erica. Y'all please hit the like button.
Ooh, okay, Skylar's got something. The name Nevada, it's people in Nevada say Nevada, but that's just wrong. I don't know what to tell you. What does it even come from? Like, what does the word Nevada mean, actually? It'll help us more. We got to do a whole episode on Nevada one day. Venecita writes, someone start the petition for Candace's nominations for Joe Kent's former job. I just always think I'm going to get called. I thought Turning Point was going to call me when they needed somebody in PR because I could help them. Like, hey, you guys have to pretend you're surprised about the Egyptian planes. Like, you're concerned. You guys have to pretend like you're surprised that Joe Kent is saying that the investigation was blocked. You should be concerned, not angry, concerned. I can help them with regular human emotions. If everybody's a droid at Turning Point USA, they need me. I can go in there, give them a little bit of humanity. This is how humans feel when they hear this information, and I can help, input their algorithms so they understand, cannot process. What do you mean I'm supposed to feel sad or concerned? I'm here for that. Hire me. Bonita. Ooh, okay, Skylar's got something. The name Nevada, it's Spanish. Originally from the Spanish adjective Nevada. So I'm definitely right? Yeah, like snow, but they say ada. They don't say ada. There's no ada in Spanish. Right, Skylar? You agree, you speak Spanish. See? Connecticut wins. What's up, Connecticut, in the chat? Whoop, whoop. I'm representing. It's your girl, Candace.
I'm great. How are you, Stella?
Connecticut. Bonita Joshua writes, hey, Candace, support from South Africa. Keep fighting the good fight. Anthony, where are you from, Anthony? So I want to go back to Anthony. Where is Anthony from? Anthony's crazy. Craziest person I ever wrote a comment is Anthony. Zach Run writes, let's throw the whole pot of spaghetti on the wall, see what sticks and how much falls on the floor. These people are pure evil. Take everyone not on their side out. It is sad to see Bongino become a little man trying to link Candace and Joe. Yeah, I didn't know what it was about. They were all over this. I'm like, guys, drop the receipts. I never got classified information from Joe Kent. Like I said, the person who told me about the text chain originally was Andrew Colvetz. So it's so wild to hear him sit up there and be like, oh, this is whatever. And again, why are you upset about that? Why are you upset about more information being given to the public? He says, well, I was trying to protect innocent people. innocent people that were lying to the public and saying Charlie never blinked on Israel. When they were arguing with him the night before, knew how stressed he was, knew how aggrieved he was, those people are therefore not innocent people, okay? Innocent people don't lie. They don't lie, okay? I'm not saying they're guilty of a crime for lying, but I'm saying they're not innocent people because they lie. So, anyways, let me not get fired up. It's been a fun Monday, you guys. If you'd like to support our show, merch on website. I'm gonna have some Aubrey. I gotta get some Aubrey. I feel like I should be wearing an Aubrey hat. I don't know. I just can't believe what happened to Aubrey, bro. Hurts. We got new merch on the website, CandaceOwens.com. Easiest way to support the show. You can also buy my book. Everybody has been really enjoying that. You can get a bundle and you can have both of my books signed, or you can just buy the book by itself, make him a sandwich. I'm really proud of that book anyway. And so I appreciate all you guys that tag me when you get it too. Please tag me on Instagram. It's a little thing that always just perks up my day a little bit. Anyway, we will see you guys.
Hold on. Before I go, what time is it? I got a little time. What's his name? Kent. I haven't seen them in a minute. Hold on. Where have they been? Hold on. What is this about? Let's get here. Let's get to the news.
Thing, isn't that an overall good news is ICE at airports, but it turns out if they're doing absolutely nothing, isn't that an overall improvement in the deployment of ICE so far this year in this country? I mean, better there than raiding, some grocery store.
Busting in somebody's door.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
But are they there to check
taking their masks off?
IDs?
So now we can see who works for ICE. B, it's not great that they're additional crowding in the terminals and presumably creeping a lot of people out in the terminals. But C, what we're hearing anecdotally and sort of seeing pictures of and sort of getting anecdotal information about in terms of their behavior is that they seem to be going to the Dunkin' and looking at their phones while getting paid their full salary right in front of the TSA agents who are working their actual jobs.
And not getting paid.
Completely overwhelmed, completely overworked, and working without pay. So it just seems like it's kind of a psychological negative, but a physical positive.
It's punishment.
Yeah,
because he's saying that they are loyal.
I love the root of the idea.
Everybody else
pretty closely. A caller to a right-wing radio show last week suggested it, and then the host of that show goes on Fox and gives the idea directly to Donald Trump, who he knows is watching, and now Donald Trump claims that was my idea. It was my idea to get them out there.
I think that we should seed callers onto right-wing radio shows that tell Trump that he should send ICE to Iran. Just send ICE to Iran. They can do it. Put Greg Bovino in charge. They'll do great. They'll be awesome at it. If you get it into enough sort of crevices in the Fox Newsiverse, he'll think it's an idea that he had.
They'll recognize my voice, so we're going to have to find someone else to make those calls. Thanks, Rachel.
Fair enough. Thank you, Larry.
Thanks. This despicable human being. He's stupid as well as being ill-tempered. You know, those aren't my words because I would never call Donald Trump ill-tempered. This despicable human being is how the Republican leader of the United States Senate in 2020, Mitch McConnell, described Donald Trump in an oral history after Donald Trump lost the 2020 presidential election. In late December of 2020, Mitch McConnell said, "He's stupid," as if it was a known fact. Like, well, he promised to be bombing civilian infrastructure.
Hold on, this stuff is moving on its own. What is happening?
Trump in an oral history after Donald Trump lost the 2020 presidential election. In late December of 2020, Mitch McConnell said, "He's stupid," as if it was a known fact, like planet Earth is round, something beyond dispute. This despicable human being. Stupid does not equal despicable. Sometimes Donald Trump can just be stupid, like when he's talking about tariffs. But when Donald Trump manifests, in Mitch McConnell's words, as this despicable human being, his stupidity is the least of what is so despicable about him. And so this weekend, this despicable human being became the first president of the United States to say, "I'm glad," when a good and faithful servant of the United States died. Robert Mueller was everything Donald Trump could never be: smart, highly educated.
I don't want to talk about him. I've already said rest in peace. Let me go here. I'm trying to get caught up. Hold on. Come on, Tucker.
Netanyahu government represent every Jew. The government of Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel and its many organized cheerleaders here in the United States have for some time now made the case that all criticism of their government is anti-Semitism. And it is because their government somehow speaks for all Jews globally. Every Jewish person is represented by the Netanyahu government. Therefore, the actions of the Netanyahu government represent every Jew on this planet. And any criticisms of that government are, by definition, an attack on every Jew. They are anti-Semitism. It's a position that doesn't make any sense, but it's kind of hardened into a consensus in the United States, at least for right now. And if you think about it for a moment, it's not only incorrect, it's a kind of slander against Jews. It is itself a kind of anti-Semitism. Because, no, not all Jews are represented by Benjamin Netanyahu, and there are many who don't want to be. And that's true even within Israel. Yes, polling consistently shows that most Israelis were in favor of the war, but in Israel, as in all countries, most people don't really know the details of what is happening or why, and that's by design. Israel is a particularly censored place. It's also a particularly small place, fewer than 10 million people. And so its citizens, by and large, live the same way we do, in an information vacuum, where what they know is determined by somebody else for political reasons. All of which makes it very important to do our best to break the spell of this, to hear from people who disagree and hear them explain why. People who have some credibility and knowledge, not just wackos with weird opinions, but thoughtful people who have a dissenting view. And one of those people is a man called Avram Berg. Berg is in his early 70s. He was born in Israel. He's from a prominent Zionist family, and he himself was a prominent political figure for many years. He was a member of the Knesset. He was Speaker of the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, its lawmaking body, its Congress. He was even interim president of Israel at one point. So
his opinions may represent the minority of Israeli opinion, but he himself is not a fringe figure. He was at the very center of Israeli politics. Once again, he was the interim president of the country. And in the hours after this current war broke out, he wrote a very strong op-ed in the Israeli press explaining why it was a terrible idea, why it didn't serve Israel's interests, and while the people doing it had no idea why they were doing it. It's a pretty brave thing to say in the middle of a country at war, but he said it because he's a pretty brave guy, agree or disagree. So we thought it would be worthwhile to hear directly from him. Avram Berg from Israel. Here it is. Avram Berg, thank you very much for doing this. I want to ask you about something that's happening right now, apparently. So the President of the United States issued a statement this morning saying that because of ongoing negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, the U.S. would not actually commence with hitting civilian infrastructure as he promised, and that we're going to try and work something out diplomatically this week. Almost immediately after issuing that statement, there were reports that the Israeli military was hitting civilian infrastructure in Iran. Assuming that's true, what do you make of that? What strategy does that suggest?
The same strategy that Israel has for years, no strategy. In Israel, in many, many cases, the compilation of many tactics sometimes assemble into a de facto strategy, but otherwise nothing. I mean, just look at the last 2 hours. When was the announcement of the president? The surprising one 2 hours ago. And you have a bundle of messages coming from all directions. The first and the most important one, hallelujah, they're going to renew the flights so we can go for Passover vacation. That's the immediate reaction of many Israelis, my daughter included. The second is, Netanyahu knew altogether. I mean, Netanyahu is behind the move, as if framing it as his own move. And then, Trump, he is so softy. He's so weak. He doesn't have any resilience. The Iranians, they trick him, etc., etc., etc. Bottom line is nobody has a clue. And in this chaos, the military does what it does the best. Simply hammer the nail.
But you're suggesting that those tactics, the one we're seeing today and the ones we've seen for the last month, don't add up to a strategy? There's no strategic goal in mind?
I listened to you very carefully in the last couple of weeks, and the way you try to conceive the Israeli strategy from Netanyahu's 40 years life mission to the greater land of Israel, biblically speaking, or messianic eschatological one. And I envy you that you really believe that we have something like that. Okay? It doesn't work that way. I mean, in a way, that let's start somewhere else. I mean, somebody once told me that what's the difference between an Israeli and an American? Among many differences is that we Israelis, we see an aim, so we aim and we shoot. You Americans, you see an aim, so you take an aim and aim and aim and aim and aim. You are a lot about process, and we are a lot about, yalla, let's shoot it. And there is a difference here. I have no idea what's the American strategy. I do not know what was the end game. I have no idea what is the final design the architects of the White House or the Washington really had in mind. I can tell you one thing for sure. Israel wants to remove the Iranian monster because
censored place. It's also a particularly small place, fewer than 10 million people. And so its citizens, by and large, live the same way we do, in an information vacuum, where what they know is determined by somebody else for political reasons. All of which makes it very important to do our best to break the spell of this, to hear from people who disagree and hear them explain why. People who have some credibility and knowledge, not just wackos with weird opinions, but thoughtful people who have a dissenting view. And one of those people is a man called Avram Berg. Berg is in his early 70s. He was born in Israel. He's from a prominent Zionist family, and he himself was a prominent political figure for many years. He was a member of the Knesset. He was Speaker of the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, its lawmaking body, its Congress. He was even interim president of Israel at one point. So his opinions may represent the minority of Israeli opinion, but he himself is not a fringe figure. He was at the very center of Israeli politics. Once again, he was the interim president of the country. And in the hours after this current war broke out, he wrote a very strong op-ed in the Israeli press explaining why it was a terrible idea, why it didn't serve Israel's interests, and while the people doing it had no idea why they were doing it. It's a pretty brave thing to say in the middle of a country at war, but he said it because he's a pretty brave guy, agree or disagree. So we thought it would be worthwhile to hear directly from him. Avram Berg from Israel. Here it is. Avram Berg, thank you very much for doing this. I want to ask you about something that's happening right now, apparently. So the President of the United States issued a statement this morning saying that because of ongoing negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, the U.S. would not actually commence with hitting civilian infrastructure as he promised, and that we're going to try and work something out diplomatically this week. Almost immediately after issuing that statement, there were reports that the Israeli military was hitting civilian infrastructure in Iran. Assuming that's true, what do you make of that? What strategy does that suggest?
The same strategy that Israel has for years, no strategy. In Israel, in many, many cases, the compilation of many tactics sometimes assemble into a de facto strategy, but otherwise nothing. I mean, just look at the last 2 hours. When was the announcement of the president? The surprising one 2 hours ago. And you have a bundle of messages coming from all directions. The first and the most important one, hallelujah, they're going to renew the flights so we can go for Passover vacation. That's the immediate reaction of many Israelis, my daughter included. The second is, Netanyahu knew altogether. I mean, Netanyahu is behind the move, as if framing it as his own move. And then, Trump, he is so softy. He's so weak. He doesn't have any resilience. The Iranians, they trick him, etc., etc., etc. Bottom line is nobody has a clue. And in this chaos, the military does what it does the best.
Thank you.
Simply hammer the nail.
But you're suggesting that those tactics, the one we're seeing today and the ones we've seen last month, don't add up to a strategy? There's no strategic goal in mind?
I listened to you very carefully in the last couple of weeks, and the way you try to conceive the Israeli strategy from Netanyahu's 40 years life mission to the greater land of Israel, biblically speaking, or messianic eschatological one. And I envy you that you really believe that we have something like that. Okay? It doesn't work that way. I mean, in a way that, let's start somewhere else. I mean, somebody once told me that what's the difference between an Israeli and an American? Among many differences is that we Israelis, we see an aim, so we aim and we shoot. You Americans, you see an aim, so you take an aim and aim and aim and aim and aim. You are a lot about process, and we are a lot about, yalla, let's shoot it. And there is a difference here. I have no idea what's the American strategy. I do not know what was the end game. I have no idea what is the final design the architects of the White House or the Washington really had in mind. I can tell you one thing for sure. Israel wants to remove the Iranian monster because part of it is a real threat, and part of it because we pump it to the size of a monster. So we are fighting, in a way, a real demon and a demon which is our own creation. So what we want to do is, we don't like the war, we want it to end, we don't like the missiles, we hate the sirens, we skip nights after nights of sleeping, but once we are into it, let's make sure that it's over. So the real will of many Israelis is, let's get over with the Iranians.
The problem is the relative size. Israel is a small country. Iran is a large country. How exactly do Israelis expect that's going to happen?
Size-wise and number-wise, we are, let's say, 10 million in a good day, and there are 100 million in an average day. In a way, many Israelis do not really measure it this way. Many Israelis believe that we are a kind of a superpower. A couple of weeks ago, I was in a high school somewhere, and I promoted my good, old, no-goodnik peace agenda, okay? And one of the students stood up and said, Avram, can I ask you a question? I said, yes, please do. And he said, why won't we do to them what we did to them in Afghanistan? And I said, I know Gaza, I know Lebanon, I know Syria, I know Egypt. What did we do to whom in Afghanistan? I mean, we haven't been there yet. And I asked him, where are you from originally? And he said, I was born in Moscow. And I said to myself, haha, he thinks like a Russian. And I asked him, tell me, how many Jews are there in the world? Now, Tucker, with no hesitation, he said, 54.3. Okay, and how many Israelis are we? He said, something like 20 million. In the eyes of many Israelis, we're not just superpower technologically and superpower economically and a regional hegemon politically. We have the numbers in economy, the numbers in support, the numbers in demography, without really calculating what are the real numbers. So when you ask the Israelis how, simply do it.
And what will the end victory look like from an Israeli perspective? How will Israelis know they've won?
I don't have a good answer for this question. At a sense that in many cases, the American or the Western way of thinking is usually a kind of a win-win. I mean, we end the war and we make sure that we left at the other side somebody to talk with. I mean, yes, it is ridiculous that the American president is saying, I would like to talk with somebody, but there is nobody there because I killed him. Okay, this is your own oxymoron. This is a paradox that I take it you intellectually, you know how to square this circle, okay? But from the Israeli point of view, in many, many cases, philosophically, no, psychologically, we do not live in a win-win situation. We live in a zero-sum game. If there is a competition, if there is a race, if there is a war, if there is a battle, if there is a conflict that ends up that Tucker and Avrum profits, something is wrong with me. I want to win alone. I want you to be dead. I want to humiliate you. I want to cancel you. Whomever you are, my enemy. And when you look at this philosophy, you understand where comes the political rhetoric that every adversary, never mind who is he, minor or major, by the end of the day, he is a Hitler. And every decade we have a new Adolf Hitler. And since everybody is the arch enemy, there is only one solution to this one enemy: removal. And therefore, when you ask me what is the Israeli political echelon, forget about the people in the street. The political echelon approach toward any kind of resolution, whatever it is, it's not a dialoguist one. Now, it is not just about Netanyahu, which is a case by himself. When you look at what is allegedly called opposition in Israel, they simply compete with the government who is more aggressive, who is more as if resilient, who has more so-called creative solution to the enemy we have to demolish and obliterate. And this is why you hardly find in Israel any reconciliatory politics.
So we're still in the middle of Lent, inching closer and closer to Holy Week, the days leading up to Easter, when we are called to walk alongside Jesus.
Was to call my mom and said, "You have a very, very talented boy child. He's like an egg. The more I boil him, the harder he becomes." Now, in a way, our life experience as Jews in the last couple of thousands of years and Israelis in the last couple of decades boiled us into a very, very hard, stiff-neck egg. On one hand, we never trusted hands offered to us. And on the other hand, we never experienced to extend our own hands. I'll give you two examples. The rhetorics of Israel since 48 is a rhetoric of survival, of existential threats, of permanent, imminent war. Out of nowhere came President Sadat to Israel. I remember a soldier at 73 war at the other side of the Suez Canal in a foxhole in the desert. In the middle of the night, like a frightened 18 years old boy. And I was listening to the then iPhone transistor. Do you remember the transistor with the rusty voice?
Oh, yeah.
And I heard President Sadat in the middle of the night say, "I'm ready to sacrifice 1.5 million Egyptian soldiers in order to redeem the Sinai Peninsula." And I said, holy God, 1.5 million Egyptian soldiers against me, Avraham Bug, a Jew boy from Jerusalem? I was.
Ouch. Hold on. Hold on. Here, old George.
He's Professor Said Mohammed Marandi, Professor of English Literature and Orientalism at the University of Tehran. But he's much, much more than that. As a regular viewer of the show, well, I promised you the best. He's in the news for a reason that I'm going to ask him first. He's Professor Said Mohammed Marandi, Professor of English Literature and Orientalism at the University of Tehran. But he's much, much more than that. As a regular viewer of the show, you already know that. Professor Marandi, welcome again to the show, and thank the Lord that you are safe and well, and may you continue to be so. The best tweet of the month was issued by your friend and mine, Scott Ritter, who took to Twitter, or X, just a few hours ago, and denounced the literal bounty that has been placed on your head.
They put a bounty on his head?
A group, I don't know where they're from, but they are blue tick members. They are in a paid partnership.
How much was the
I don't know what that
bounty?
is either, but you may. And in that tweet,
$1 million
of theirs,
bounty.
they are offering $1 million for your capture, presumably then to be tortured and murdered. It's not the most important story of the day, but it's pretty important. Not least because Elon Musk has completely, steadfastly refused to remove the tweet. He's refused to suspend the authors of the tweet. Anyway, Scott Ritter said, they've offered this, they're cowards. They've offered to kill Professor Marandi, although they know he's a peaceful man. Scott says, but I am not a peaceful man. So I suggest to you that you raise $1 million to come and capture me. I promise you, it'll be the last thing that you will ever do. Give us your feelings about seeing that tweet in print. It's coming up all the time, mainly by people denouncing it and demanding Musk's action, but action there has been none. Your views on that, Professor?
Well, thank you very much for having me, George. It's always a great honor being with you. I'm not surprised, and I don't think you are either, after your experience at the airport in your home country and how they treated you and how you ultimately had to leave. The world is changing, and the West is becoming much more authoritarian and dangerous very rapidly. Elon Musk and X and other social media, they supported the genocide in Gaza. They supported the slaughter. They censored people for criticizing what was going on. I recall numerous tweets of mine that were deleted. One was a picture of a number of Palestinian children who were massacred, and I wrote above it, Western values, and in scare quotes. And they deleted my tweet. They forced me to delete it. Otherwise, I would no longer be able to use my account. And that happened many times. So this is how they have been treating the Palestinian people. Why not allow people to gather money to kidnap and torture me and kill me? It doesn't surprise me at all. What I think, though, is that it's not going to affect me in any way or form. I'm going to continue to do what I have to do. And my family and my loved ones are all very upset, but it doesn't bother me at all. And George, every night and often during the day, there are millions of people on the streets in Iran, in different countries, as I'm sure you and many of your viewers know. In Tehran, right now, as we speak, in different neighborhoods, there are huge crowds chanting in support of the revolution, the armed forces, the Constitution, the leader, and rejecting the United States. And they have been bombed on multiple occasions. Western media won't say this, but I've tweeted footage, and I'm sure you have, and I'm sure you've seen it. I was at the Jerusalem Day or Quds Day rally on the last Friday of the month of Ramadan in Tehran. On that day, across the country, they had rallies. It was huge. They fired missiles at the rally. They fired missiles at it. But people didn't budge. They murdered a woman with their missiles. And no one in the Western media, from The Guardian, cared. And they bombed other rallies in the north of Iran, in the city of Anzali, and in the city of Hamida. But people stood their ground. Young teenage girls, 16-year-olds, they stood their ground. They wouldn't move. So how can I behave differently from that 16-year-old girl, that 15-year-old boy, that 75-year-old woman, that 80-year-old man who stands his ground on the streets of Tehran, on the streets of Anzali Port, on the streets of Hamadan, and elsewhere throughout the country, when these young kids who could be sitting at home and doing what teenagers normally do, but instead they choose to go on the streets from different walks of life. When they are so steadfast, and when the bombs strike, they're unfazed. They do not scream. They just continue chanting.
Wow.
Saying that we are the nation of martyrdom. We're the nation of Imam Hussein. We are resolute in our resistance. How can I do anything but what they do? So I will continue to do what I have to do. But it is something that people should keep in mind, that Elon Musk is allowing his platform for people there to gather money, to take people hostage, and of course torture them and murder them. But if you say that If you complain too much about dead Palestinian kids, you could get into trouble.
Well, indeed, and full marks to you for that answer. I expected nothing less from you. Let's turn to the bigger picture. There's a Scottish comedian called Duncan McRae who is facing the Lord on the Judgment Day, and who is told by the Lord that he's going downstairs because of all the bad things that he had done in his life. And he says in the Scottish vernacular to the Lord, I didn't ken, I didn't know, I didn't ken. And the Lord says, well, you ken now, you know now. They know now that they picked the wrong country to try and bully, to try and break. They now know for sure that they've bitten off far more than they are able to chew. All of us who are watching social media know this. Perhaps those watching mainstream media, not so much, but the policy makers, the military brass, and looking at his face and his physical and mental degeneration, Donald Trump knows it too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And in the coming hours, if Trump decides to strike Iran's critical infrastructure, Iran will force them to pay a price beyond their imagination. Iran is prepared for all-out war. It has not shown its true power yet. It is holding back. And all those family dictatorships in the Persian Gulf, in Qatar, these proxies of the regime in Washington, the Emirates, the Bahraini regime, the Saudi regime, the Kuwaiti regime, all of them, every single one of them, they are complicit in this war. They assisted the United States in slaughtering Iranians. They've been assisting the United States for all these years in all their wars, whether in Yemen or whether in Iraq. When they invaded Iraq, these countries, these regimes, they had funded Saddam Hussein in the 1980s. They gave him hundreds of billions of dollars. But when their masters in Washington told them to turn against Saddam Hussein, they did so immediately. So these regimes will pay the ultimate price within hours. As soon as Trump starts targeting Iran's electrical power plants, everything on the other side of the Persian Gulf will be wrecked. And so my advice to people in these countries is to leave tonight, because we don't know what this madman in Washington wants to do. He is completely irrational. He is moody. He has mood swings. He says one thing now, and he'll say something completely different in an hour from now. So we have no idea where he's going to go, but we're prepared for the worst. And we've already shown him that. The Iranians have already shown him that. When the Israeli regime struck Iran's critical gas infrastructure, with the consent...
Can I get y'all to hit the like button, please? Or double tap the face of your phone. Or hit those three dots at the top right corner. Phone or the computer, but get the likes up, please.
Of the United States. Trump is lying that he didn't know. The U.S. did know. If he shown him that, the Iranians have already shown him that. When the Israeli regime struck Iran's critical gas infrastructure, with the consent of the United States, Trump is lying that he didn't know. The U.S. did know. If he personally did not know, that just shows how ignorant he is. But when they struck, Iran immediately hit back very hard. And Trump was forced to back off because he knows what this means. So if they strike Iran's critical infrastructure, that will be the end of oil and gas in the Persian Gulf. And the same is true for the regime in Baku, which is a close ally of the Israeli regime. Their oil and gas will no longer be exported in the near future. So Trump has to be very careful, because if this happens, then it no longer matters if the Strait of Hormuz is opened or not. If there is some sort of agreement, there will be no more oil or gas or petrochemicals and no ships to take those non-existent oil and gas and petrochemicals. And that would lead to a global economic crash that the world has never seen in the last century.
Get you a grid. I mean, what's passing the grid? Get you a.
And it is all for Zionism. And if anyone asks why is Iran striking back at these regimes, because without their support, without giving the U.S. their airspace, without giving the U.S. their territory, without allowing the U.S. to fire missiles from their territory on a daily basis, there would be no war today. So they are fully complicit. And Iran did not start this war.
Trump too
and
bipolar.
Iran did not start striking infrastructure. Everything that Iran has done till now has been in retaliation. So hopefully the madman in Washington, someone will force him to comprehend that the price that he will pay for this is beyond imagination. But Iran is prepared. Iran will not back down. And it is waiting for the 48 hours to finish to see what it has to do.
The madman, as you rightly
Iran
say,
have the right to defend themselves.
In any
yes, he do. It's not our war.
Life, business.
He's fighting for Bibi Netanyahu.
If a professor was behaving like him,
and it don't appear like they helping him at all.
Other kind was behaving like him.
Hey, Jerry.
There would be the flap of white coats. Men would come in to take him away in a straitjacket to a padded cell. The insanity is written all over his face. It's written in every statement he makes on Truth Social. It's written in every press briefing that he gives. I mean, there was a movie called The Madness of King George. This madness is way in excess of the madness of the old English king. But you would hear the flap of white coats, or you'd hear the march of boots as the military brass took the nuclear button away from him. But none of that is happening in the U.S., even though the vast majority of the American public is opposed to this war. Some of them only because Trump started it. They might well have done it themselves if they had still been in power. But they're pretending at least to be against it, and the public is overwhelmingly against it. And yet, Trump can actually press that button that you mentioned tomorrow, as he's threatened to do. And it will happen unless someone takes the button away. It doesn't say much for the system of so-called democracy, does it, Professor?
No, this is not a democracy. It has never been a democracy. And Europe has never been democratic. And what we're seeing today is basically the end result of this whole project of liberal capitalism. But I don't think this madness is just linked to Trump. Anyone from the Epstein class is mad. Anyone who conducts themselves in such a manner towards children and does the things that we've heard from the Epstein documents, they're mad. Anyone who hides it, whether in the mainstream media, whether it's the presenters or the editors, that madness is very much associated with their behavior as well. Anyone who is not outraged that the Epstein files are hidden away and the real evidence is not out there for the public to see, and that no one of significance is being arrested, there's a madness about them too. Anyone any presenter in Western media which refrain from saying that what happened in Gaza is a genocide. There's madness in that too. So this is not surprising. It's a madhouse. The political elites in the West and those affiliated to them, they all belong in this large madhouse. But the reality will dawn upon them in the coming hours. If they make the wrong move, Iran is prepared to go all the way. We are not backing down. The United States, the Israeli regime, have to back down, and they will have to accept Iran's conditions before this war comes to an end. Iran's conditions are not only about Iran, they're about the region, they're about Iran's sovereignty, they're about the future of threats against Iran in the future. In other words, the Persian Gulf can no longer be a place where these family dictatorships allow it to be used as a foothold to attack Iran or Yemen or Iraq or Syria or Lebanon or anywhere else. And also, Iran has to be compensated for everything that has been done to it. And Iran will do that. The United States will not achieve its goals. This is a dying empire. Things in the United States are not going well at all. And they are going to get a lot worse. But if Trump makes this foolish move, they're going to get a lot worse, a lot faster than they thought it would. And again, I stress the people in the Persian Gulf. No one in Iran wants harm for them. But Iran is forced to retaliate. And so I stress that people should seriously contemplate leaving Qatar tonight, leaving Oman, the Emirates, the Saudi regime, Kuwait, Bahrain, all these entities tonight, because it is quite possible that there will no longer be any electricity or any other critical infrastructure in the coming hours. So, again, I stress that if these regimes were not complicit in this war, and they were not complicit in the murder of all these Iranians, we would not have this conflict. And you and I would not be having this discussion. They brought it upon themselves. So we'll all have to wait to see what the madman in the White House does.
Do you include desalination in that? You didn't in your list. Have I overstated the critical importance of drinking water, which is possible only by desalination plants that are literally sitting ducks?
I think that everything is included, George. The fact is that the United States needs this territory to wage war. And the family dictatorships in Qatar and elsewhere, they provided him that. And we have to bring this to an end. So people should leave. The difference between Iran and the United States and the Israeli regime is that when Iran retaliates, it says so beforehand. When they bombed Iran's critical gas infrastructure, all those poor workers who were there, they were facing a catastrophic situation. Missiles were striking the gas installation. Huge fires were erupting, and all these poor workers who received low wages and have kids waiting at home, they could have been burned alive. But Iran, when it retaliated, it said so beforehand. Some people in Iran criticized the armed forces. They said, why are you declaring where you're going to strike the next day? Because they could beef up their air defenses and perhaps shoot down missiles and drones. But the Iranians don't want people to die. And this is exactly what we did during the war with Saddam Hussein as well. When he was firing missiles at Iran, for years Iran did not reply. Ultimately, when it did, when it saw that the international community would not intervene to stop him, Iran would always give 24 hours time for people to leave. So here we have no option. We have to bring the Trump regime to its knees. And the only way to do so is to devastate the Trump regime and make sure that it can no longer use West Asia as a platform to strengthen its empire, to enforce its tyranny. And so, Again, I stress that people should leave now. Perhaps he will not carry out this madness, but if he does, Iran will not wait a moment. Iran will strike back very hard, and then perhaps there will be no time for people to leave. My advice would be for them to take their cars and drive towards, I suppose, Iraq or Yemen or to some other far-off place, Jordan, to be more safe and secure.
I don't normally name and shame specific Gulf dictatorships for a variety of reasons. But I see in the social media this evening that the UAE say that they're going to send their navy to fight you. They're going to send their navy to end this Strait of Hormuz impasse immediately. I responded by saying this is a fly threatening an elephant. Are they really serious, these tiny, narrowly based family tyrannies threatening the gigantic Islamic Republic of Iran? Or is this just fluff, chaff?
George, look at Al Jazeera and in the comment section in Arabic and English and see what the views of Arabs are about these dictatorships. They despise all of them, except for those who are on the payroll, because they all know that they're sellouts. They all know that they're proxies of the United States, every single one of them, in different ways. The UAE has a passport-holding population of 1 million and a couple of 100,000. A small, very small city in Iran. But more importantly, it has millions of people who are workers, who are...
Can I please get y'all to hit the like button? Please, like, double tap the face of your screen. What you mean you don't see any Israel ships? Listening. Hit the like button, good people. Double tap. This good tea. He's saying get out.
Indentured servants. Do they think that they can control these people when things get tough and they no longer have electricity? The ruling elites will flee the country before anyone else does, if they haven't already left. The same is true in Qatar. What can Qatar do with a population of 400,000? They've only destroyed Syria and wrecked Iraq and Yemen and the Emirates, of course. They've destroyed the Horn of Africa, all of them working for the interests.
Oh, that is a great pity that we have momentarily, I hope, lost Professor. Professor, are you still there? I'm very glad because I have some more important, I have some other important questions to ask you. May I move on? I think we got your message loud and clear. But the Western media and Piers Morgan, your friend and mine in particular,
oh no, they're not backing up.
Were crying in the week that Iran had fired 2 missiles at the UK, in inverted commas, the UK military base in Diego Garcia, and it's 4,000 kilometers away, whilst Iran hitherto was imagined and had stated its maximum range was 2,000, and that A, this made you liars, and B, it meant that Piers Morgan's studio might get one of these missiles down its chimney. Did Iran fire 2 missiles which narrowly missed their target in Diego Garcia? Or was that somebody else that did that?
Iranians have said that they did not fire those missiles. And they also say that they did not fire missiles towards Turkey or Oman. And therefore, those we must conclude that these are false flag operations. But just one thing that I wanted to add, George, is that with regards to the Persian Gulf, the Emirates, with a passport holding population of 1 million, if push comes to shove, the resistance in Iraq, a country with 45 to 47 million people, and Yemen, if they move into the Arabian Peninsula, who's going to stop them? If the resistance in Iraq takes over Kuwait, if Yemen enters Saudi Arabia, if Iran intensifies its attack, and if their key infrastructure is destroyed, they will fall immediately. All of these regimes will fall. So the Emirates is in no position to threaten Iran. They've already did more than enough harm to the Iranian people and helped the slaughter of all those little children in Minam. So the smart thing for the Emirates to do would be to call their masters in Washington and their masters in Tel Aviv and start licking their boots and begging them not to carry out their threats, because these regimes will pay the ultimate price.
Finally, Professor, and I'm always grateful for your time, especially in the arduous circumstances in which you find yourself. This all started because of Palestine. The real gripe that the West has with the Islamic Republic of Iran is that uniquely, more or less, they have never forgotten Palestine, and that they never will, and that their declared intention, their article of faith, is to do whatever they can to rescue the Palestinian people from their ongoing calvary. You, not Nasser, not Saddam Hussein, no king, no Amir, have ever made Israel pay for its crimes against the Palestinian people, against the Lebanese, and many others, in the way that Iran has over this last 3 weeks. And millions, maybe more than millions, are glued to whatever footage they can find. And it seems that you are more or less punishing Israel at will now. If you can land missiles at Dimona, the secret of all secrets, the best or worst kept secret in history, Israel's nuclear weapons plant, you can land them anywhere. And now that your country is bombing Israel 24/7, is there any possibility that the Palestinian people can look forward to some salvation in whatever agreement you agree to make at the end of all this?
I think that at the end of all this, there will have to be an agreement, as I said earlier. There will, without a doubt, be an agreement which includes all of Iran's allies in West Asia. I should also add, though, George, and I know you know this, that the heroic resistance in Lebanon has really been stunning during the past few weeks. I recall how after drawing away the Israeli army from Gaza for many, many months, and then ultimately the Israeli regime carrying out strikes in Lebanon and murdering Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, after weeks of heavy fighting and the slaughter of so many innocent Lebanese supporters of resistance, when there was a ceasefire, these people on the payroll of Qatar and Erdogan and the Mohammed bin Salman and Mohammed bin Zayed, these allies of empire, they were ridiculing Hezbollah, saying that they failed. They were, despite all the suffering that the resistance did for the people of Gaza to save the Palestinian children in Gaza, These people who are on the payroll, receiving their dollars, working for their media outlets, working in their so-called cultural centers or religious centers, these so-called intellectuals, they were constantly trying to ridicule and humiliate the resistance in Lebanon after all the heroic work that they did. But look at what they're doing now. They said that Hezbollah was destroyed. But look at Hezbollah today, hitting the regime day and night. And this is all for Palestine. This is all because of the injustices and the genocide, the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Ultimately, George, this Israeli regime will not last. The world has woken up. And the fake allies of the Palestinian people, the fake allies, they've exposed themselves. But the people in their countries support Palestine. The government in Turkey continues to send transport oil. And Azerbaijan and the Republic of the Dictatorship in Azerbaijan produces that oil.
Okay, I'll see y'all tomorrow.
They have
if you didn't hit the like button coming in, please hit it on the way out.
Allow
Good night.
the U.S. and Israeli military to gather intelligence against